Hello and welcome to What the F Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Welcome to day 302. The House of Representatives voted to censure Representative Paul Gosar for posting an animated video depicting him killing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and attacking Joe Biden. Gosar was also stripped of his committee assignments. The vote was 223 to 207, with two Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, joining Democrats in favor of censure. Kevin McCarthy called the vote an abuse of power by Democrats, but Nancy Pelosi deemed the social media post an emergency, saying, quote, "We cannot have a member joking about murdering another. This is about workplace harassment and violence against women," end quote. In a speech from the House floor prior to the vote, Ocasio-Cortez said, quote, "As leaders in this country, when we incite violence with depictions against our colleagues, that trickles down into violence in this country. And that is where we must draw the line, independent of party or belief. It is about a core recognition of human dignity and value and worth," end quote. Gosar, on the other hand, claimed that the video was mischaracterized but did not apologize. Meanwhile, Trump asked a federal appeals court to block the National Archives from sending his White House documents related to the January 6th riot at the Capitol to Congress, arguing that the Constitution gives a former president the power to keep files confidential even though they are no longer in office, and even though Biden refused to assert executive privilege over them. Last week, a federal district court judge sided with Congress and the Biden administration that while Trump could invoke executive privilege, whatever residual secrecy powers he possessed were outweighed by the sitting president agreeing that the documents should be turned over to House investigators. The appeals court, however, temporarily put a hold on the ruling, and a three-judge panel is scheduled to review whether Trump can control records that the National Archives is set to give to the House after Thanksgiving. In more court news, the now famous shirtless insurrectionist wearing face paint and a horned helmet during the January 6th Capitol riot was sentenced to 41 months in prison for his role in the attack. Jacob Chansley, also known as the QAnon Shaman, pleaded guilty on September 3rd to one felony count of unlawfully obstructing an official proceeding. During the attack, Chansley left a note for Mike Pence on the Senate dais that read, "It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming." Chansley's sentence of roughly 3.5 years is the longest sentence handed down to any January 6th participant so far. Meanwhile, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights appointed the Republican attorney who helped Trump attempt to overturn the election to a federal election advisory board. Cleta Mitchell was named to the Board of Advisors for the Federal Election Assistance Commission. While the advisory board cannot directly make policy, it does recommend guidelines for the EAC, which certifies voting systems and advises on federal election compliance. On January 2nd, 2020, Mitchell joined Trump on a phone call where Trump asked Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find 11,780 votes to overturn the election in his favor. Moving on, the 7-day average of new hospital admissions with COVID-19 climbed in 25 states from a week earlier. 2 weeks ago, only 14 states saw a rise in hospital admissions. Meanwhile, the Biden administration will purchase 10 million courses of Pfizer's new COVID-19 antiviral pill once it's authorized. In a clinical trial, Paxlovid reduced the rate of death and hospitalization by 89% when given to people who are at high risk of severe illness within 3 days of them experiencing symptoms. Paxlovid could become available at pharmacies within weeks pending FDA authorization. The FDA is also aiming to authorize booster doses of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine for all adults as soon as Thursday. The CDC's independent committee of vaccine experts is scheduled to meet on Friday to discuss the booster shot's efficacy and safety. Moving on, more than 100,000 people died of drug overdoses in the United States between April 2020 and April 2021, the first time that drug-related deaths have reached six figures during any 12-month period. Overdose deaths were up almost 30% from the 78,000 deaths during the prior year. And finally, Joe Biden called for the Federal Trade Commission to investigate whether oil and gas companies are engaging in illegal conduct by keeping gasoline prices high. In a letter to FTC chairperson Lena Khan, Biden said there is, quote, mounting evidence of anti-consumer behavior by oil and gas companies, end quote, noting that gasoline prices are rising even as the price of unfinished gasoline goes down. The national average price for a gallon of regular gas is $3.41, $1.29 more than it was a year ago. Biden wrote, quote, this unexplained large gap between the price of unfinished gasoline and the average price at the pump is well above the pre-pandemic average, adding, meanwhile, the largest oil and gas companies in America are generating significant profits off higher energy prices, end quote. And in the polls, Politico says 40% of voters agree that Biden is in, quote, good health, end quote, while 50% disagree, a 29-point shift since October 2020. Biden turned 79 on Saturday. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.